Hi and welcome back to IT Management. This video is the first of a two-parter about AI, something we're hearing about all the time now, and I know you've seen these. There's videos all over the place on YouTube about how AI is going to take over the world and enslave us all. I wouldn't worry about that too much right now. If you're in your 20s or 30s, if that does happen, and you're probably not going to be alive to see it, those are just clickbait designed to get you to tune in and watch their video and scare you. People like a good scare. But there are concerns about AI, and I wanted to go over a little of those before we got into how I think AI is affecting IT. Right now, if you're in IT at just about any level, you are at the center of something that the world has never seen before. Change so fast and so exponentially important, I guess is the right word, that we've never seen anything like this before. And the reason for that isn't AI in and of itself. It's how quickly we got here. I'm a little bit of a history buff, and that's not true. I'm a pretty serious student of history. When I was 14 years old, I got caught shoplifting. And my dad had it with me. And he bought me a stack of books to read. And some of them were history books about Native American Indians, and I really developed a passion for it. So, and ever since then, for 40 years now, I've been reading history, and this technology we're in right now is a lot of people have forgotten how quickly we got here, and I'm not talking about in the last 10 years or even 50 years. But let's go back to algebra. And you think this is going to get off track, but it's not. It's important to understand this for you to understand what you as an individual are at the center of. Algebra had been around for about 3,000 years. They knew what a quadratic equation was in ancient Egypt. The ancient Babylonians knew what a linear equation was. But until René Descartes, in I believe it was 1630s, 1640s, René Descartes is the philosopher who said, "I think before I am, or therefore I am." But he's also the guy that founded the Cartesian coordinate measuring system, the X and Y, that we can plot these equations on. So it took 3,000 years to get there. Within just about 100 years after that, Leibniz and Newton were developing or inventing or discovering, however you want to put it, calculus that quickly. So then by the early 1800s, that Cartesian coordinate system and calculus were creating steam engines, real investigation into electricity pretty quickly. Then you fast forward another 100 years in the early 1900s. So this is really quick. The Wright brothers are flying planes. Henry Ford's building mass-producing cars. Fast forward only 70 years after that, we're landing on the moon. And here we are 50 years later with AI. It happened incredibly rapidly. So this kind of change after 3,000 years, or even 5,000 or 6,000 years of roughly recorded history, the last 300 years, that minuscule portion of it, the change has become so rapid. So fear is, of course, going to follow along with that. But is really the end of the world? Is that really on the horizon? Not anytime soon. And look at it this way. A couple of years ago, I can remember McDonald's trying a thing where it automatically filled your drink cup. You never see that anymore. And it's because we as technology people, or IT people, I should say, look at IT in terms of data. And that's the foundation of it, of course. The last people that are going to lose their jobs over IT are the data people. AI is built on data. That has to be done first. It needs that. But if we're in 2024 and the end of the world is right around the corner, but there's no restaurants that are fully automated, much less I have not seen one in a long time where there's an automated drink machine maker. So once AI is really stabilized in the next 5 or 10 years, then it'll start to more rapidly, I should say, integrate into the actual robotic portion of it. Right now, it's not a big worry. But that doesn't mean there aren't big worries coming. But I don't think what we think they are. So in your job, there are going to be people replaced by IT, and that's what we'll get to in the next video. And there are going to be jobs that become a little bit easier in some ways through AI. But what worries me most is we talked about this in our video on hiring people. And if you've ever applied for a job on one of the job boards and you upload your resume, how bad it is at taking your document information from a Word doc or a PDF and filling out a form with it. So as that gets better and better, people, even though it's bad like that, people still use these algorithms, machine learning algorithms, to make decisions. And you'll see more and more governments, and they already talk about this, the NGOs in particular, that we can use AI to make these decisions about who does what. So one thing we do know about history, and this is also something you should be aware of, one thing that's different now in the last probably 100 years is everybody's connected. And not just through the internet, but there's so many people now that even if you live in a remote village somewhere in Siberia and don't have internet access, you see people once a week that probably do. So information passes not just on the internet, which is amazing, but even face to face way quicker than it ever did. When Genghis Khan or Alexander the Great were on their mission, right now everybody gets all worried about this group wants to take over the world and be a world ruler, one world government. That's not new. That's been around for at least 2,000 or 3,000 years. And there's not just one person that wants to do that right now. That's why that usually doesn't get very far. Because if you're the guy that's real close to taking over the world, the minute you get there, your trusty agent behind you is going to stab you in the back and he's going to take over the world. It's a dangerous job. But as this AI advances and we use it to make data-based decisions, not database, data-based, it's people that aren't maybe a little bit more deeply involved in machine learning and even a simple pricing algorithm don't understand how much data goes into that and how much you can miss. But as we start to think more and more, or as we start to get better and better at that, and people start to trust AI more and more, it's going to be, my fear, and again, I've studied history for 40 years, is that it will be used to put us in boxes. And that's what I wanted to do this video about. That's what you should be watching for, not the end of the world. If that happens, and we trust it a little too much, a little too soon, meaning in the next 10, 20 years it shouldn't be trusted to make these kind of decisions, it will be kind of the same thing as the Catholic Church was in the Middle Ages, up to, well, Henry VIII. It can be used to put you in boxes. And I've been involved in politics a little bit. I ran for Congress against John Boehner a few years back, and I was sitting down with a guy, and he said, well, we got to get this Barack Obama out of there. And as a Republican, I sat there, I said, and this is why my campaign always had problems, because they were willing to give me some money to get behind. I said, I love Barack Obama. And he goes, well, you're a Republican. I said, yeah, but I'm also a fairly student of history, fairly serious student. Barack Obama's not trying to kill me. He doesn't want to make me a serf or a slave. He just has different ideas than I may have in some things. And then later on, when Donald Trump became president, a lot of my Democrats said, oh, that guy's Hitler. No, he's not. He's not. He doesn't want to enslave people either. It's, as I've gotten older, become more black-pilled, meaning I don't really identify much with either party anymore. But back to the point on AI and the boxes, I know how these politicians, or I've seen enough of them, and people that get into politics usually have ambition that exceeds their competence. Not always, but so when these boxes get created, and again, you're going to see this ties very much into managing people. You're not allowed out of the box. That's what I'm real worried about. If we put people in boxes and let this algorithm decide it, the algorithm will say, well, this is the box of acceptable social behavior. This is the box of acceptable intellectual endeavor. And if you get out of that, you're a Galileo or Copernicus, you'll be thrown in prison. And so we'll never have another Rene Descartes. To me, right now, at least, the biggest threat to AI isn't that there's going to be a drone go over your house, and if you say the wrong word, or even somehow they can read brainwaves and think the wrong thought, it zaps you. It's that it will be used for the greater good, for all of humanity, to put you in this box. And boxes where there's food and shelter are kind of comfortable things. But you need those radicals outside the box from time to time to tell you that, wait a second, the Earth is not the center of the universe. We are revolving around the sun. But we also need the radical philosopher who says, hey, we can plot this equation out. And that's what led to AI. So I think that's what I would be more worried about. But again, what I'm getting to here also is your responsibility in this as the center of AI. Think of it this way. If you don't know, machine learning and something like scikit-learn, you've made a decision tree somewhere in your life. If I buy this car and it gets this gas mileage and it has this many doors on it and it's this color, I'll have a car I like and it also has utility to it. Well, then you miss, it doesn't have this review, so I got to rewrite my decision tree. And I did one of these several years back on reading glasses. Someday I'll get into it because it's a really interesting story. But we kept having to add features, add columns to our model of our decision tree. And it took us 3 months to get everything. And we didn't work on it 8 hours a day. But that's how long it took to build that right decision tree before we finally figured out what was going on with these reading glasses, why they sold better in some areas than they didn't. So with that in mind, you are part of the people that have a responsibility in IT to tell others, to spread the word that, hey, these politicians, they don't know what Python is, much less scikit-learn and feature sets or random forest regressor or classifier. So you don't want people making decisions with a tool that they have no understanding of. And this is a unique time in history also where you have the ability to get the word out with the internet and social media. So, and again, people think maybe I'm anti-AI. Not at all. We redid the same, almost the exact same type of analysis we did with our decision tree. I took a scikit-learn class. I wanted to learn a little bit about it because some of our data people were wanting to use it. And I was just stunned at that decision tree that took us 3 months to make, to get the data together and build the decision tree. We already had the data, kind of, we knew what the feature set was. It not only made 50 different decision trees, it weighted all the 50 columns in 100 different ways. And if there's one group that's underpaid right now, and they're going to be overpaid in a couple of years, I think, as AI gets better with this, is that these data analysts that are doing basic low-level machine learning algorithms, one person can do the work today that would have taken a team of 10 or 12. One person can do that probably in a week or two, what would have taken a team of 10 or 12 to do in 3 or 4 months. It is that efficient. AI is fantastic. But like any new technology, it can be easy to be abused. So when you see the end of the world videos, always go back to, I'm not going to worry about that until most of the fast food restaurants are kind of highly automated. Till I go into a factory and there's not just robots building the engines. There's robots fixing the robots building the engines. That's probably a good 40, 50 years away. Again, I'm a student of history, more for monetary reasons than anything else. The technology is probably there to do that. But the expense is so exorbitant right now, it's not going to come anytime soon. So the idea of the space laser on a drone shooting you down for a bad thought or for not using the right trash can on trash day, or just controlling us all to because it's gone haywire and it needs to keep things stable, is a lot further than you think. So that's the first part of my AI video. I wanted to kind of level set with a little bit more of a rational, reasonable discussion of some of the fears surrounding it. In the next part of the video, we'll get into some things that a manager has to watch out. And one of the things I'm seeing more and more is this notion of a prompt engineer. I saw this video, prompt engineers don't need to know any code. How are you going to ask generative AI to help you with your code when you don't know how to do it yourself? You don't know what's even wrong. And so I thought, this is kind of a weird thing. So I looked up, this person was saying there's all kind of jobs available, making $300,000 a year for good prompt engineers. Go to Indeed and look up prompt engineer. I found 0 jobs. 0. So it's a lot of this stuff is hype. It's designed to get you to watch a video. It's not based on any kind of rational, logical thinking. It's just wild speculation now. So in our next video, we'll go into how AI actually is affecting the IT industry, and it is. But even there shouldn't be a lot of fear. It's for the next 5 or 10 years, from what I see, at least the next 4 or 5 years in the programming world, it's going to make things better. In the data analytics world, it's going to make things better. If you've ever used Databricks, and that inside Azure is where I use it. That AI in there, I had a bad piece of code, and I'm not a Databricks expert in the first place, but it was impressive what it did. So we'll get into that in the next video. I just thought it was important to kind of level set a little bit with somebody that has kind of my unique skill set of understanding AI at a management level and how things fit together in history. Hope you found this useful, and I hope it calms you down a little bit and makes you worry a little less. Thanks for watching, and we'll get to the AI and management in the next one.